It's a lonely job here at the county psychiatric hospital. Most of the patients are asleep, medicated, and calm. My main duty is just to be here, a warm body in a chair, monitoring the security feeds and making sure no one wanders. It's mostly hours of scrolling through old emails and browsing news sites, anything to keep my eyes from glazing over. But last Tuesday was different. I was digging through the hospital's ancient shared drive, trying to find an old patient intake form template. The system is a mess, a digital graveyard of forgotten files and unlabeled documents. As I clicked through nested folder after nested folder, my cursor hovered over something strange. A folder named simply Observer was hidden, the icon slightly transparent, the kind you have to enable, show hidden files to even see. Curiosity, my greatest weakness on this job, got the better of me. I double-clicked. Inside wasn't a patient file or a hospital policy document. It was a collection of video files, dozens of them, each labeled with a simple date and timestamp. The dates stretched back years, long before I ever started working here. The first file I opened was from 3 years ago. The video flickered to life, showing a grainy, black and white feed of a patient's room. It was room 37. I recognized it instantly because it has been empty for as long as I've been here. They say it's under renovation, but the work never seems to start. In the video, a man was sitting on the edge of the bed, talking. There was no audio, but his gestures were frantic, his face a mask of desperation. He was pointing at the corner of the room, then at the camera, then back at the corner. He looked terrified. He was pleading with someone or something that I couldn't see. I checked the patient logs for that date. The man's name was Arthur Finch. The notes said he suffered from extreme paranoia and visual hallucinations. A few days after this video was taken, he was transferred. The notes ended there. I clicked on another file, this one from 5 years ago. Same room 37, a different patient, a woman this time. She was huddled under her bed sheets, rocking back and forth. Even without sound, I could feel the terror radiating from the screen. She would peek out from the blanket, her eyes wide, staring at that same empty corner of the room. I checked her file too, severe delusional disorder. She claimed something was watching her from the corner, something that fed on fear. She was eventually moved to a higher security facility. My heart started pounding in my chest. This wasn't just a coincidence. I went through file after file, a dozen different patients, all in room 307, all from different years. Each video showed the same pattern. The patient would be fine for a few days, then they would become fixated on the northeast corner of the room. They would describe being watched, being tormented by a presence no one else could see. And every single time their diagnosis was updated to include severe paranoia or hallucinatory psychosis. Then they were transferred away. Who was recording this, and why? The folder name, Observer, sent a shiver down my spine. Was the observer the person recording, or was it the thing in the corner of the room? I started to feel a prickling sensation on the back of my neck, the kind you get when you feel like you're being watched. I glanced over my shoulder at the bank of security monitors. All quiet. Psst. All the patients were sleeping soundly in their beds, except one. On monitor 9, the feed for room 214, a patient named Elias was standing up. He was a new admission, a quiet man in his 50s, brought in for what the doctors called a sudden psychotic break. He was standing in the middle of his room, perfectly still. Then, slowly, he turned his head and looked directly into the camera. His eyes were wide, with a familiar terror. He raised a trembling hand and pointed, not at a corner in his room, but directly at the screen, directly at me. My blood ran cold. That was impossible. He couldn't see me. I was in a control room 2 floors down. It had to be a coincidence. But then he started mouthing words, slowly, deliberately. I leaned in closer to the screen, my breath catching in my throat. I could read his lips. It's behind you. I spun around in my chair so fast it almost tipped over. The control room was empty. The door was locked. There was nothing but the hum of the computers and the faint glow of the monitors. I let out a shaky breath, laughing at myself. I was letting this get to me. It was the night shift, the isolation, the creepy old files. I was just spooking myself. I turned back to the monitors, but I couldn't shake the feeling. The Observer folder was still open on my screen. I had to know more. I started digging deeper, not in the video files, but in the hospital's administrative records. I searched for room 37. What I found was a series of work orders, all for electrical maintenance in that room, all signed off by the hospital's chief administrator, Dr. Alistair Finch. Finch, the same last name as the first patient I saw, Arthur Finch. I ran a search. Dr. Alistair Finch was Arthur's father. My mind raced. Why would a father secretly record his own son's deteriorating mental state? And why all the other patients too? I kept digging, found encrypted email exchanges between Dr. Finch and a research group from a private corporation. They talked about environmental stimuli, neuroresponse, and harvesting data. They weren't treating these patients. They were using them. They were studying the effects of what? Then I saw it. A single, password-protected file in the Observer folder that I'd missed before. It wasn't a video. It was a research proposal. The password hint was, "What is the Observer?" I tried everything. Room 37, Finch, paranoia. Nothing worked. Then I thought about the patients. What they all had in common. They were all afraid. They all felt watched. I typed in the word, fear. The file opened. It was a blueprint, not for a building, but for a device. A device that was installed in the walls of room 37. The document called it a Psycho-Acoustic Resonator. It was designed to emit a low-frequency signal that was imperceptible to most people. But for those with a predisposition to certain mental health conditions, it could induce intense feelings of paranoia and trigger visual and auditory hallucinations. It created the very symptoms the patients were being treated for. The corporation was studying fear, manufacturing it, and Dr. Finch was helping them, using his own patients, his own son, as lab rats. The Observer wasn't a ghost, it was a machine. My hands were shaking. This was monstrous. This entire hospital, or at least a part of it, was a laboratory. As I was reading, a new email popped up on my screen. It was an automated alert from the security system. Irregular activity detected in room 37. My stomach dropped. I switched the monitor to the live feed for room 37, the room that was supposed to be empty. The camera was on. Standing in the middle of the dusty, sheet-covered room was a figure. It was Dr. Finch. He was looking at the equipment in the corner, the spot where all the patients had stared. He had a small device in his hand and he was adjusting something on the wall. He was tweaking the machine. Then he turned, looked straight into the camera, a cold, clinical expression on his face. He knew someone was watching. He knew I had found his secret. He raised the device in his hand and pointed it at the camera. The screen flickered, and a high-pitched ringing started in my ears, getting louder and louder. My vision blurred. The corners of the control room seemed to stretch and warp. A dark shape began to form in the corner of my eye. It was tall and thin, a shifting mass of shadow. I knew it wasn't real. It was the machine. Finch had turned it on, and somehow he was targeting me through the hospital's network. The shadow in the corner grew darker, more solid. Fear was primal, overwhelming. My heart felt like it was going to explode. I scrambled for my phone, my fingers fumbling. I had to call the police. I had to expose this. But the shadow moved. It wasn't in the corner anymore. It was right behind me. I could feel a cold breath on my neck. I didn't dare turn around. I closed my eyes and whispered the only word that came to mind. Observer. I don't know how long I sat there, paralyzed by a fear that was both real and manufactured. When I finally opened my eyes, the sun was rising, streaming through the small window in the control room. The shadow was gone. The ringing in my ears had stopped. Dr. Finch was gone from the monitor. I immediately copied the entire Observer folder onto a flash drive and walked out of that hospital. I never went back. I sent the files to every journalist and law enforcement agency I could find. An investigation was launched. Dr. Finch and the corporation were exposed. The story was everywhere for a while, but things have a way of getting buried. The hospital is still open. They say room 37 has finally been renovated, but I know the truth, and it changed me. I can't trust silence anymore. Every time I'm alone in a quiet room, I feel a prickle on my neck. And sometimes, just for a second, when I look in the corner of my eye, I see a shadow. I don't know if it's just the memory, or if a part of that machine's signal is forever imprinted on my brain. All I know is that I've seen what's behind the curtain, and I'll never stop looking over my shoulder. Thanks for listening to my story. Stay safe out there.